All right, welcome to another conversation with Harvey the extraterrestrial, and sometimes we have others that join in. So, Harvey, are we ready to start the conversation? Yeah, he says we can just begin. All right. Harvey, I have a funny feeling about today's meeting. I have a sense that it's going to be important in some way, that you're going to be saying something that we really need to know. And you want to just begin and I'll just translate and... Okay, you want me to be calm. This is important and you want me to get it correct. Okay? There's other people listening in, I can sense. Okay? He wants to talk about the world, how it's turning upside down right now, and their part in the process of the world turning upside down right now. He doesn't want us to think that his side, our side, is causing it, but they're involved. And he wants everyone to understand how they're involved so that our side doesn't get blamed for any of this, but he wants to explain how it's being used to free humanity, how it's being used to leverage humanity in a way that will work. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay, so go ahead. The world is very complicated on a political level. It's extremely complicated on a political level. There's so many different factions, there's so many different groups, so many different nations, and each political leader for each nation has their own individual agenda. So for Harvey's side, for our side to coordinate an awakening of the planet across so many different nations and so many different leaders is a near Herculean task. It's a very difficult task to think about. That's why it took so long to come up with this plan to awaken humanity. That we had to wait for this time period when there was enough telecommunications, enough internet to make the possible connections across all the different nation states possible. But the complexity of the Earth phenomena, the Earth drama, is in large part due to the complexity of the nation states, because there are so many. It's not like you're waking up one country, you're waking up a whole bunch of countries, and the leaders associated with each one of those countries has to be involved. So he just wants to emphasize the nature of the complexity of the situation. It's not just a matter of changing the dialogue coming out of Hollywood. It's a matter of involving the leaders, and the leaders ultimately do have to be involved, even though many of the leaders may be currently invested in stuff that's being controlled by the reptilian side, the other side, what we call the bad ETs. Nonetheless, you still have to deal with human leadership. Humans, humans are going to look towards their leadership. So you just can't cross the leadership out and say you're not going to deal with the leadership, you're going to go directly to the masses. You have to deal with the leadership because the masses are going to be looking towards their leaders. So awakening all of humanity is a difficult process because you're talking about awakening the masses at the same time you're leveraging influence on the leadership. I've got this right so far? Okay, just keep going. So there's a simultaneous issue that the leaders won't do anything unless the masses are ready, unless the masses are waiting for it, unless the masses are depending. So the leaders won't do anything unless the masses are there. But the masses won't do anything unless the leadership is also involved. So it's getting both of them, and across so many different nation states, that's one of the reasons that this planet is so difficult to wake up. It's one of the ways that the bad ETs, the reptilians, have been exploiting the divisions that are between the nations. That's one of the reasons that the divisions are so important to the bad ETs. And so for us, our side, Harvey's side, to counteract that, we have to be able to deal with the leadership in the masses within each country. And then there's language difference, because the telepathy doesn't work, and so we have to talk about, the language difference, the cultural differences, the political elite differences. It's a hugely complicated process, and we have to be able to deal with all of that in order to wake everybody up. We just can't wake up one country and then expect it all to spread throughout the rest of the countries. It's got to be some type of a simultaneous explosion of interest in extraterrestrial phenomena across all nation states. Now he just wants me to keep going. He wants to talk about the crises that are happening. The crises that are happening are absolutely necessary for this to occur, because they do involve so many different nations. For example, the stuff that's going on in the Middle East involves all the different countries within the Middle East. And they're all on different sides. And we're talking about everything from Iran on one side to Israel on another side, the Hamas, the Gaza stuff, the Lebanon, you're talking about Hezbollah, you're talking about Jordan, and Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait, and Yemen. It goes on and on and on. All those countries are all involved. Turkey, Egypt, everything. So that's their primary focus right now. But in Europe, the primary focus is in Ukraine, with Russia and Ukraine and the rest of Europe. And now others are thinking of getting more deeply involved. France and Britain and the United States sending more weapons. So it's this simultaneous conflict that are going on that are really focusing the attention. And it was necessary for all of these conflicts to go on at the same time so that all of the nation states can be involved in a solution. Are you serious? Okay, just keep going, he says. So that there's a solution. So we had to engineer something where there would be a massive solution for all of the things that would affect all of the countries all at once. So many countries. So many countries are focused on Europe, and so many countries are focused on the Middle East. And then there's also China and Taiwan. So these crises had to come to a head. And then the American political crisis is all blending into this as well. So that the American political crisis with, you have two very I don't know, weak, and I call them two weak leaders for two different parties, and a country that's totally polarized and and it's already starting to experience violence, demonstrations, and it's going to get worse. So you get the crises happening in the United States, and also those crises are spreading out. And there are these other things that are happening where people are, like in Germany, there was a mass invasion of another group, an entirely different group, of a Tesla factory. So you get people being activated, hundreds and thousands of people being activated across continents in every country, and it's all happening at the same time. And all of this needed to happen at the same time. You can't have half of the world sort of asleep, just doing normal tourist business, and then expect them to wake up when the other half of the world starts getting involved with extraterrestrials. There has to be some sort of global attention-gathering moment. And so this attention-gathering moment is disturbing to everyone on the planet, but on the other hand, it's a very pregnant moment, and it's one that we can exploit to get past the juggernaut of disclosure, so that we can really talk about the extraterrestrials and the Earth's place in the galaxy, and that we can talk about the prison planet. We can talk about the different extraterrestrial groups that are both repressing and trying to liberate the humanity. And none of the problems are going to be solved on the planet Earth without that. The disclosure process, the ETs, the humans have to understand the ETs. They have to understand the bad ETs, the reptilians. They have to understand the entire disclosure process in order to resolve all of these other conflicts. In fact, most of the other conflicts, he said most of the other conflicts would just simply go away if the bad ETs weren't helping to foment all of this stuff. They're taking advantage of the idea of the sort of the balkanization or the fragmentation of the political scene in order to distract, so that the disclosure process doesn't move forward. So we're actually using, since that is what their game is, to use these crises to distract humanity. That's what we're using also in our own way to involve. But something is going to happen. This can't happen forever. Just on the, he's really insisting that I just keep on going. This can't happen forever. Just with people just talking. There's going to be a war. There's going to be an incident. There's going to be, the extraterrestrials are going to be involved. There's going to be a shooting war. There's going to be a hot war. Right now there is a cold war between what we call the bad ETs and the good ETs, mostly Harvey's side and the side that's dominated by the reptilians. So there's a cold war going on, and that has to turn into a hot war at some point. And that crisis, and these crises have to build to the point where the extraterrestrials have to come out from the shadows and actually get involved. So that's what the build-up is all about. That's what all of these crises is all about. It's a way for the good ETs to actually get involved to help save humanity, because the crises are going to be spilling out over, and in a sense it could destroy the entire planet, destroy humanity, destroy our abilities to rescue them. So the crises are tipping the scale into a major conflict situation between the good ETs and the bad ETs, where the Cold War spills out into a hot war. And yes, there will be, the bad ETs, there's no way in the world that the bad ETs are going to leave all by themselves. There's no way in the world that someone's going to, anyone has chased them off. There's no way in the world that they're too deeply entrenched. You just can't chase them off like that. There has to be, they're not going to leave unless there is an actual battle, and they're not going to leave unless it's obvious to them that they can't win. And the only way it can be obvious if they can't win is if humanity turns against them. So humanity has to be woken up, and then it has to turn against them. And then the bad ETs will be looking at a total loss situation where the planet is turned against them, and the good ETs, Harvey's side, is there in huge, massive force. And at that point, the bad ETs will retreat. Woo! What a plan! That point is when so the guns are going to be there. There is going to be some shooting. There's going to be shooting. Some ships are going to fight. There's stuff like that. But the bad ETs will only leave when they're absolutely convinced that it's a totally hopeless situation, and they can just. Why should they lose more ships if the planet is totally lost? That's when they will leave. When they get to the point where they can't win no matter what, because the whole planet is turned against them, all the secrecy has been finished, everything is out, everything is disclosed, and there's no way they can grab hold of the secrecy organization stuff again and go back to the old days where they were controlling everything from behind the scenes like puppeteers. They can't do that anymore. So once that is completely open, and then the good ETs, armed to the teeth, are not allowing, any time. It would be a shootout, and the bad ETs would lose the shootout, although it would be a major battle. But the bad ETs are not stupid, so they're not going to lose their ships, and they're not going to lose their personnel on a hopeless situation. Then they'll go, and they'll regroup, and they'll go somewhere else, and then we can focus on getting humanity out of this planet, getting humanity out of this prison system. We can focus on all the good stuff that you talk about. That's the plan. That's the way it can work. That's the only way it can work. So there has to be a simultaneous disclosure and simultaneous engagement of the good ETs against the bad ETs, and there'll be this hot war stuff that's going to happen. There's going to be a conflict. It'll be a conflict in the sky, and people will see it. Everybody in the whole world will be able to see it, and there'll be no chance that any particular nation is not going to be able to see it. And the United Nations will be involved, and everybody will be involved. Everything. That's the only way it can work, that everybody gets involved and all of the leadership gets involved. So, wow. Okay, Harvey, can I have just a few seconds break here? He's chuckling now. This is the first time I actually heard the whole story of what your plan is. This is complicated. Wow. I think I'm supposed to make a joke now, like tell me who's going to win the presidential contest or something. But and I understand now, and that would work. That would work. That. Can I sort of summarize him? He says, yeah. Okay, so as I understand what Harvey's saying is, there is going to have to be a conflict between the ET groups, the good ETs and the bad ETs, but humanity has to be woken up in the disclosure process simultaneously. And the bad ETs are going to leave only when it's a totally hopeless situation, when they can't control the planet any longer. Even if the good ETs were not here, the entire planet has turned against them. So their normal mechanisms for controlling a population wouldn't work anymore. They'd have to have a new skill set for getting them. The only thing they could do is blow up the planet, kill everybody. But that would be stopped by the good ETs. So the techniques that the bad ETs would be using to control the planet through secrecy, manipulation, everything from bribery and everything else, just wouldn't work anymore because of the disclosure process. The cat is out of the bag, so to speak. And when that happens, so they can't control it internally any longer, and they're looking at the point of a gun from the good ETs that's more powerful than them, it makes no sense to battle it out. And they'll save their ships or save their personnel and simply pull out. Did I get that right? He's smiling. He said, we got it right. Why did I never think of that before? It's genius. And that's the only way. I always wondered, how is this disclosure thing going to actually work? So you guys are really going to get involved big time. Wow. Am I supposed to ask like when? Even he doesn't know exactly the timing because there's so many things that have to be coordinated at the same time. But it's soon. Wow, this is really an important conversation with Harvey. This is the first time I ever understood the entire plan, and this is the first time I could ever say that this would work. Wow. Harvey, this is no joke of a plan, and it is the only plan that I can think of that could work. It's genius of a plan. Was I involved in any of this, or am I just a foot soldier? Wow. Okay, I'm ready for another go. He says I've had this is quite a bit of an intensive thing. Okay, but I want to make sure we get everything that you came to tell us. We're going to have a private conversation also after this. This is the public conversation, but so I'm going to be able to hang around and we'll talk more. But this is what he wanted everybody to get. This is the take-home message that he wants everyone to get. He wants everybody to understand the plan. He really wants everybody to understand the plan. There should be no secrecy at this point. This is the plan. Disclosure, and then a big confrontation between the two ET sides. And that's a huge thing. I'm talking about showbiz. Let me ask, is the entire, he's laughing, he says, yes, the entire galaxy is watching this. He says it's actually a funny analogy for us to say this is showbiz, but this is the biggest level of showbiz I've ever seen. A galactic audience watching this happen. Wow, that beats Hollywood. Yeah, wow. And he said everybody is tuned in, at least on his side, and even in the bad ET side, a lot of people they're hopeful for a breakthrough because they want to be free also. They're actually looking indirectly, sort of peeking, not wanting to be caught, but they're actually looking as well. This is going to hopefully send a hopeful message throughout the rest of the galaxy to be able to liberate Earth, the biggest prison planet operation in the galaxy. This is the most tightly controlled, heavily controlled, to free everybody here. This is a huge statement that'll reverberate throughout the entire galaxy. And yes, on the entire free will ET side, the good side, Everybody's watching. It's a major soap opera. It's a major show. It's a thing. This is the thing it's on their version of the TV news. They're tuned in telepathically as well, you're saying. That everybody's sort of tuned in to see what's going on, as well as technologically. Wow. Hey guys, this is showbiz. Aren't everybody glad we have good cameras? Sorry for the joke, but he says that's true. It is important that we have good cameras. It's good that we have good equipment. And they made sure that the equipment is good and that we do know how to use it, because this is very important for the disclosure process, for the process to be properly presented. It can't be sort of presented cheap. And these actual pictures, do people watch our pictures? They said they do. There's actually an interest in the video recordings and the pictures as a sort of a documentary. This is the human way of doing it. And the rest of the galaxy is very interested in the human way of doing it. So our part is actually very interested in this whole thing. Yeah. Wow. Is it interesting where we do this in these secret locations and, on the beaches? Yeah. He says the whole thing is part of a drama. Okay. This is great. You tell me when the public stuff is good, because I have a sense you want to, well, the energy there, we have to go into the private stuff. We can wrap it up, you sure? He wants to emphasize how much his side loves everybody on the planet. This is a huge labor of love, and more resources than people can possibly know have been invested in helping the loved ones, which is everybody on the planet. He said we can sign off now. Okay, Harvey. All right, everybody, I want to thank you all for tuning in. This is a hugely important one. I had never heard this story before. I had never heard of the plan, but this is the first time I've ever heard of the plan, so he's telling me just to sign off. Okay, everybody, I'll see you next time. We will see you next time in the next Conversations with Harvey.